My name is Margot, and at 32, I have built a successful career as an event planner, orchestrating perfect gatherings for others while always ensuring my family's Christmas celebrations are flawless. This year, I was particularly excited until I accidentally overheard my mother and siblings plotting to make me the designated babysitter for 5 children without even asking me. The betrayal cut deep, but instead of confrontation, I decided on something better. Where are you watching from today? If family has ever taken you for granted, hit subscribe because my story might just inspire your own boundaries. Family is complicated, mine certainly island. On the surface, we appear close-knit, the kind that gathers for Sunday dinners and never misses a birthday. But beneath that picture-perfect facade lies a dynamic that took me years to recognize. I am the middle child in our family of 3 siblings. My older sister Abigail is the perfectionist with twin boys, 7-year-old terrors named Jackson and James, who she somehow believes are angels incarnate. My younger brother Thomas has 3 kids with his wife Penny, 9-year-old Sophie, and the younger ones, 5-year-old Emma and 3-year-old Lucas. Then there is me, perpetually single Margot, the reliable daughter who always steps up for family events. My mother Linda, widowed 5 years ago when Dad passed from a sudden heart attack, has come to rely on me more than I sometimes think is fair. Dad was always my advocate, the one who would notice when others volunteered my time without asking. Without him, the balance shifted. My role as family coordinator wasn't something I chose, but evolved naturally from my organizational skills. I started small, helping with Thanksgiving dinner timing when Mom seemed overwhelmed after Dad died. Then it was Easter, then Christmas, until somehow every family gathering became my responsibility to plan, execute, and often finance. Meanwhile, I built my event planning business from the ground up, starting with small birthday parties and working my way to corporate events and weddings that now command premium prices. My calendar stays booked months in advance, something my family conveniently forgets when they call with last-minute requests. Last summer, Abigail called the day before her anniversary, frantic that her dinner reservation had fallen through. Could I possibly find them something? Oh, and could I watch the twins while they went out? I canceled my own plans and made calls to 3 restaurant owners who owed me favors. By 9:00 that evening, Abigail and her husband were enjoying a private rooftop dinner I had arranged while I supervised the twins who refused to sleep until their parents returned at midnight. 2 months ago, Thomas needed emergency help with a school project for Sophie. His text read, "Need dinosaur diorama by tomorrow morning. Any chance you could help? We all know your crafting skills are way better than mine." I stayed up until 2:00 in the morning creating a prehistoric landscape that earned Sophie an A+. My mother relies on me most of all. When the pipe burst under her kitchen sink, I was her first call. When she needed to figure out her new smartphone, I spent 4 hours walking her through basic functions. When the neighbor's tree fell in her garage, I handled the insurance claim because the paperwork overwhelmed her. For years, I accepted this role without complaint. After all, family helps family. But something changed last spring when I met Jason at a charity gala I was coordinating. He was the photographer hired to capture the event. In between his camera clicks and my clipboard checks, we discovered a connection that felt effortless. For the first time in years, I found myself excited about dating someone. Jason understood my hectic schedule because his work involved similar demands. He appreciated my organizational skills rather than exploiting them. When I talked about family obligations, he listened without judgment, but asked gentle questions that made me consider whether the balance was fair. As Christmas approached this year, I felt a new excitement. Jason and I had been dating for 8 months, and I wanted him to join our family celebration. I dropped hints during our Thanksgiving dinner, mentioning that I might bring someone special this year. My announcement received distracted nods as everyone focused on the meal I had prepared. I began planning Christmas in early November, ordering specialty ingredients and handcrafting personalized ornaments for each family member. I reserved the premium ham from the butcher, who only offers 20 each season, paid for entirely from my own pocket as my gift to everyone. I researched activities the children might enjoy, creating custom coloring books with illustrations of our family traditions. My dining room became Christmas headquarters with lists, schedules, and shopping bags organized by recipient. I spent weekends decorating my mother's house with fresh garlands and arrangements, climbing the tall ladder to place every light just so while she supervised from below with a cup of hot chocolate in hand. This year would be different because I planned to introduce Jason to our traditions. I envisioned us serving dinner side by side, his presence, a quiet statement about my life moving forward. I wanted my family to see me as more than just their reliable helper. I wanted them to see the woman who had built a business, found love, and still showed up for family. I believed they would welcome him with the same warmth I had always shown their partners. I had no idea how wrong I was until that fateful day 1 week before Christmas. The morning started like any other December day with frost coating my car windows and holiday music playing on the radio during my drive to my mother's house. I arrived early for our pre-Christmas planning session, carrying bags of new decorations and my trusty planning binder. The house looked peaceful from outside, the lights I had strung along the eaves twinkling merrily against the gray winter sky. I let myself in with my key, calling out a hello that went unanswered. Assuming they were in the back of the house, I set down my bags in the entryway and headed toward the kitchen where voices drifted down the hallway. As I approached, I recognized my mother's laugh, followed by Abigail's distinctive tone and Thomas's deeper voice. Just as I was about to turn the corner into the kitchen, my name caught my attention and I paused. My sister was speaking, so we are agreed. Then Margot will watch all the kids during the adult dinner. 5 kids is a lot, but she handles the twins all the time, so adding 3 more should be fine. My hand froze on the wall. What was she talking about? This was the first I had heard about a separate adult dinner. In our family, Christmas had always been everyone together around the large table. My mother responded, "Well, I think it makes sense. The kids' table will be chaotic. And Margaret is so good with them. Plus, she already has all those activities planned. Those activities were meant for after dinner when we would all participate. I had created Christmas scavenger hunts and craft projects the adults would help with, not babysitting entertainment." Thomas chimed in. "She can eat early with the kids and then we can have our dinner in peace for once. Last year, Lucas had that meltdown and I barely got to taste the food Margaret had spent all day cooking." I felt a tightness in my chest as I continued to listen, unable to make my presence known. "And she will handle the cleanup too, right?" "She always does," Abigail added. "I was thinking we could open a nice bottle of wine this year without worrying about driving, maybe even play some adult games after dinner." My mother laughed. "Well, it is not like Margaret has other plans. No offense to her, but being single at the holidays means she has the time to help. We all have partners and children to consider." The words stung like a physical slap. I had explicitly mentioned bringing Jason to Christmas this year. Had they simply not listened? Or worse, had they heard but dismissed it entirely? "Has she mentioned that photographer guy lately?" Thomas asked. "I thought that fizzled out months ago." "Oh, that was never serious," my mother dismissed. "Margaret focuses too much on work for relationships to last. Remember that accountant a few years back? Same thing." My relationship history was now being dissected in my absence with completely inaccurate information. The accountant had moved across the country for a job opportunity. We had parted on good terms and Jason was very much still in my life, something they would know if they ever asked about my personal life. "Well, it works out perfectly for us," Abigail continued. "She can entertain the kids from 400 onward. I will tell the twins to save their new toy demonstrations for Aunt Margot. And she will handle the Santa duties too, right?" Thomas asked, wrapping the final gifts and arranging them under the tree after the kids go to sleep. "Of course," my mother confirmed. "Margaret always does that, and the Christmas breakfast the next morning. Remember how she made those snowman pancakes last year? The kids adored those." I stood frozen in the hallway, my mind racing to catalog all the assumptions being made about my time. Not once had anyone asked if I was willing to take on these roles. Not once had they considered I might have my own plans or desires for the holiday. "It is really convenient having an event planner in the family." Abigail laughed. "Free child care and catering, Al-Anon." Their laughter echoed in my ears as I silently backed away from the kitchen doorway with careful, quiet movements. I collected my bags from the entryway and slipped out the front door without making a sound. They never even knew I had been there. The drive home passed in a blur, windshield wipers, keeping time with my racing thoughts. Tears threatened but didn't fall as anger began to replace the initial shock. I had spent years bending over backwards to create perfect family moments, and this was how they saw me, as the convenient single woman with nothing better to do than serve their needs. As I pulled into my driveway, the first option that occurred to me was simply canceling Christmas entirely. I could claim a work emergency, or even just tell them the truth about what I had overheard. But the thought of the confrontation, the defensive responses, the inevitability of being labeled oversensitive made me hesitate. Inside my house, I stared at the Christmas command center I had created in my dining room. Personalized gifts wrapped with handmade bows, recipe cards organized by preparation time, handcrafted decorations for each family member. Hours and hours of work, not to mention the thousands of dollars already invested in making their holiday special. All while they planned to relegate me to the kids' table without even asking. I sank onto my couch, the weight of years of similar treatment suddenly crystallizing in my mind. The birthdays where my gift was offering to babysit. The family vacations where I somehow always ended up watching the children at the hotel pool while everyone else enjoyed excursions. The countless times I rearranged my schedule because Margot is so flexible with her time. The pattern was painfully clear now. I wasn't seen as having a life of equal value to theirs. My time was considered communal property available for their convenience. As this realization washed over me, I knew something had to change. That evening I sat in my darkened living room, surrounded by the gentle glow of Christmas lights, nursing a glass of wine and cycling through emotions. Anger gave way to hurt, then to resignation, then back to anger in an exhausting loop. My phone buzzed periodically with texts from my mother asking where I had disappeared to, but I couldn't bring myself to respond yet. I considered my options. Direct confrontation seemed the most straightforward approach. I could call a family meeting, explain what I had overheard, and express my feelings about being taken for granted. But experience told me how that would go. Abigail would become defensive, claiming I was overreacting. Thomas would look uncomfortable and say little. My mother would tear up and remind me how difficult the holidays had been since Dad died, effectively shifting the conversation to her grief rather than my concerns. Another option was simply accepting the role they had assigned me. I had done it countless times before. I could swallow my disappointment, cancel my plans with Jason, and fulfill their expectations. The path of least resistance was well worn in our family dynamics. The third option was withdrawing completely. I could cancel Christmas, claim illness or a work emergency, and avoid the whole situation, but that felt like running away, and it would only postpone the inevitable confrontation about family expectations. At 9:30 my phone rang with my best friend Sophia's familiar tone. I had texted her earlier with a vague message about family drama, and she was calling to check in. Sophia had known me since college and understood my family dynamic better than anyone. They did what she exclaimed after I recounted what I had overheard. Without even asking you, that is beyond inconsiderate, Margot. It is downright disrespectful. Her validation loosened something in my chest. I know, but this is how it always goes. They assume I will handle everything because I always have. Because you are capable and generous, Sophia corrected. Not because you are their personal assistant. What does Jason say about all this? I have not told him yet, I admitted. We had plans to spend Christmas Eve together before joining my family on Christmas Day. Now I do not know what to do. What do you want to do? Sophia asked, cutting through my confusion with her characteristic directness. The question hung in the air as I considered what I truly wanted. Not what would cause the least conflict or what would fulfill my family's expectations, but what would honor my own needs and boundaries. I want to be valued, I said finally. I want them to recognize that my time and effort matter. I want to spend Christmas with people who see me as a whole person, not just a convenient resource. Even as I spoke, a plan began forming in my mind. It started as a small spark of possibility that grew with each passing second. I was, after all, a professional event planner. I specialized in creating experiences and solving logistical challenges. Sophia, I said slowly, what if I just was not there? You mean cancel altogether? No, I mean, what if I created a different Christmas for myself this year? What if instead of showing up to be their babysitter, I went somewhere else, somewhere wonderful? I could almost hear Sophia's smile through the phone. Now that sounds more like the Margot I know. What are you thinking? As we talked, the plan took shape. I remembered a client mentioning a last-minute cancellation at a luxury resort in the Caribbean. As an event planner, I had contacts at venues across the country and beyond. With a few calls, I could probably secure a reservation even during the holiday rush. I could be on a beach on Christmas Day. I amused, the image growing more appealing by the second. No cooking, no cleaning, no wrapping presents at midnight. Do it, Sophia encouraged. Book it tomorrow. You deserve a break. After ending the call with Sophia, I opened my laptop and began researching options. The resort my client had mentioned was indeed available, having had a cancellation for their premium oceanfront suite. The price was steep, but I had been saving for a kitchen renovation that could wait. This was an investment in something more important, my self-respect. With growing excitement, I reserved the suite for 5 nights starting on Christmas Eve. As I entered my credit card information, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. For once, I was prioritizing my own happiness. But what about Jason? Would he think I was running away from family conflict? Would he be disappointed to miss meeting my family? There was only one way to find out. Despite the late hour, I called him. When he answered, the background noise suggested he was still at a photo shoot. Margot, perfect timing. I just finished up here. Everything okay? You never call this late. I took a deep breath and explained what had happened, from the overheard conversation to my impulsive resort booking. I know it is last minute I finished, but would you want to come with me? Spend Christmas on the beach instead of with my family drama. His response was immediate and enthusiastic. Are you kidding? That sounds amazing. For what it is worth, what they planned to do was not okay. You deserve better treatment than that. His support solidified my resolve. There is one more thing I want to do, I told him. I still want to handle the catering arrangements for my family. That is very generous of you considering everything he said, sounding slightly confused. Well, I replied, a smile spreading across my face. I have something very specific in mind. The next morning I called Duca's, the upscale catering company I frequently collaborated with for corporate events. The owner, Anthony, was surprised to hear from me so close to Christmas. Margot, what can I do for you? Emergency client situation. Actually, Anthony, this is a personal request. I need a special Christmas dinner delivered to my mother's house, but with some very specific parameters. We discussed my requirements. An elegant adult dinner with wine pairings for 5 adults and a separate kid-friendly meal clearly labeled for children under 10. I specified that all dishes should be completely prepared, requiring only minimal heating with detailed instructions even a cooking novice could follow. No problem at all, Anthony assured me. We can deliver everything at 4:00 on Christmas Day. Will you be there to receive it? No, I replied, feeling a thrill of satisfaction. I will be out of town. They will need to handle it themselves for once. With the catering arranged and the vacation booked, my plan was taking shape. I would give my family exactly what they wanted at Christmas without my interference, but on terms they never expected. Sometimes the best gift is the opportunity to appreciate what you have taken for granted. For the next few days, I maintained the illusion that everything was proceeding according to plan. When my mother called to ask why I had missed our planning session, I fabricated a story about an emergency with a client's holiday party. She accepted this without question, another reminder of how my work was simultaneously exploited and dismissed by my family. Well, you're still handling the Christmas dinner shopping, right? She asked. I gave Abigail your number to call about the twins' food allergies. They suddenly will not eat anything with red food coloring. Actually, I replied, injecting enthusiasm into my voice. I have arranged something special this year, professional catering from Duca's. Everything will be delivered ready to serve. My mother's surprise was evident. Catering, but you always cook Christmas dinner. It is tradition. I thought this would be easier for everyone, I explained. More time to enjoy the holiday instead of being stuck in the kitchen. After a pause, she accepted the change with surprising ease. Well, if you think that is best, you always know how to make things special, Margot. With that hurdle cleared, I moved on to the next phase of my plan. I needed to retrieve the personal decorations and heirlooms I had left at my mother's house over the years, items that held sentimental value to me but had somehow become communal property in clearly articulated my feelings. I composed the message carefully. "Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm safe and doing well. I needed this time away to process how I've been feeling for years. When I overheard you planning to use me as the default babysitter without even asking, it crystallized a pattern that's been happening for too long. My time, my efforts, and my presence have been taken for granted. I've been treated as a resource rather than a person with my own needs and desires. I love you all, but I needed you to experience a Christmas without my constant accommodation to understand its true cost. I'm glad the catering worked out and that you're making the best of things. We'll talk when I return, but moving forward, things need to change. I deserve the same consideration and respect that each of you expects. Enjoy the rest of the holiday. See you in the new year." I hesitated before adding a final line. "P.S. Jason says hello. He would have loved to meet you all under different circumstances." After sending the message, I turned off notifications and placed my phone on the nightstand. Whatever responses came through could wait until morning. Tonight was for watching the moonlight on the ocean and appreciating the gift I had given myself, the freedom to prioritize my own happiness. As we fell asleep to the sound of waves outside our window, I felt a sense of peace that had been missing from Christmas for years. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and others is to step away and create space for change. My family's initial reactions suggested they were capable of the growth I hoped for, but only time would tell if this disruption would lead to lasting transformation in our dynamics. Either way, I had taken the first crucial step toward a more balanced relationship with the people I loved, and that was a Christmas gift worth celebrating. 3 weeks after Christmas, I unlocked the door to my condo, wheeling my suitcase across the threshold into the familiar space that somehow felt different after my time away. The extended vacation with Jason had transformed into an exploration of local culture beyond the resort boundaries, with impromptu day trips to coastal villages and evenings sampling regional cuisine at restaurants where tourists rarely ventured. The experience had been restorative in ways I hadn't anticipated, providing not just an escape from family obligations, but a rediscovery of my own curiosity and spontaneity. The first family gathering after my return was scheduled for the following Sunday, a birthday celebration for my nephew Lucas. I approached the event with a mixture of determination and apprehension, unsure whether the insights from my Christmas absence would translate into meaningful changes or revert to established patterns under the pressure of face-to-face interaction. When I arrived at Thomas and Penny's house carrying a modestly wrapped gift rather than the elaborate party supplies I would normally have brought, the initial greetings were awkward. My mother hugged me too tightly, whispering, "We need to talk," in my ear. Abigail offered a stiff hello, her expression guarded. Only Thomas seemed genuinely relaxed, greeting me with a warm smile and sincere, "Good to have you back." The children provided welcome distraction, swarming me with excited updates about Christmas presents and school adventures. I noticed with interest that they were being supervised by their respective parents rather than automatically funneled in my direction. During a lull in the celebration, my mother cornered me in the kitchen as I was refilling my water glass. "What you did at Christmas was very hurtful, Margot." She began, her voice low to avoid being overheard. "We were all counting on you." I met her gaze steadily. "That's exactly the problem, Mom. You were all counting on me without asking if I was available. You made plans for my time as if it belonged to you." "We're family," she countered. "Family helps each other." "Yes, but it should go both ways," I explained. "When was the last time someone in this family asked what they could do to help me? When was the last time anyone considered that I might have my own plans or preferences for the holidays?" Her brow furrowed as she considered my questions. After a moment, her shoulders sagged slightly. "I can't remember," she admitted. "I guess we've gotten used to you always being the one who handles everything." "That's not fair to any of us," I said gently. "It's not fair to me to always be the giver, and it's not fair to you to always be the takers. I want a more balanced relationship." Tears welled in her eyes. "I've been thinking about it since Christmas. After your father died, I leaned on you so heavily. It was easier to keep doing that than to figure out how to stand on my own." "I'm sorry, Margot, I didn't see how much I was asking of you." Her acknowledgement, so different from the defensive response I had expected, caught me off guard. "Thank you for saying that, Mom. I want to do better," she continued, wiping away a tear. "I don't want to lose you because I've been selfish." We spoke for nearly 30 minutes, delving into years of accumulated expectations and unexamined patterns. For the first time, I felt truly heard as I expressed how isolating it had been to always prioritize everyone else's needs above my own. And for the first time, I saw my mother as someone working through her own struggles rather than simply imposing demands on my time. Later in the afternoon, Abigail approached me on the back porch where I had stepped out for a moment of quiet. "That was quite a stunt you pulled at Christmas," she said, her tone deliberately light though her eyes remained serious. "It wasn't a stunt," I corrected. It was a boundary. She sipped her drink considering my words. The twins asked about you every day. Where's Aunt Margot? Why isn't she here? She paused. I didn't have a good answer, because saying we took advantage of her until she'd had enough didn't seem appropriate for a 5-year-old. Despite myself, I laughed. What did you tell them? That sometimes adults need vacations too, and that we should have been more thoughtful about your time. She met my gaze directly. I was angry at first. It felt like you'd abandoned us when we needed you. But then I had to deal with the Christmas morning meltdowns myself and the bedtime tantrums and all the little crises you usually smooth over without anyone noticing. And I prompted when she fell silent, and I realized, we've been using you as a convenient safety valve. Whenever parenting gets hard, we hand the problem to Aunt Margot. She shook her head. That's not fair, and it's not good for the kids either. They need to see their parents handling challenges, not outsourcing the hard parts. Her insight surprised me. Of all my family members, I had expected Abigail to be the most resistant to change. Thank you for saying that, I said sincerely. I love the twins and want to be part of their lives. I just don't want to be the default solution to every problem. Understood, she nodded. So tell me about this, Jason. Is it serious? The shift to personal interest in my life rather than what I could do for her marked another small step forward. We talked about my relationship and her career challenges, engaging as sisters rather than as service provider and client. Thomas proved to be my strongest ally in the family's adjustment process. During dinner, he deliberately redirected conversations when they veered toward assumptions about my availability. When our mother mentioned that she needed help reorganizing her garage in the spring, Thomas interjected. Maybe we could all set aside a Saturday to tackle that together if Margot is available. Then the emphasis on my choice and the suggestion of shared responsibility felt revolutionary in our family context. As weeks turned into months, the changes solidified into new patterns. Family gatherings became collaborative efforts rather than my sole responsibility. Text messages began with, "Are you available to help with?" rather than, "I need you to handle." My mother started taking community classes to build her own social network rather than relying exclusively on her children for companionship. My relationship with Jason flourished in the healthier environment I had created by establishing boundaries. He joined several family gatherings where he was welcomed with genuine interest rather than the perfunctory acknowledgement I had feared. His outside perspective helped me recognize when old patterns threatened to resurface, and his support reinforced my commitment to maintaining a balanced relationship with my family. By the following Christmas, the transformation was remarkable. Planning began with a family meeting in November, where responsibilities were divided equally among all adult members. My mother hosted Thomas, handled the children's activities. Abigail managed the gift exchange, and I coordinated the meal, but with significant contributions from everyone. On Christmas Eve, as we all gathered in my mother's living room with carols playing softly and children excitedly arranging cookies for Santa, I found myself experiencing the holiday joy that had been missing for years. Without the burden of sole responsibility, I could be present in the moment, appreciating the connections that had always been the true purpose of our gatherings. "Best Christmas ever," Jason whispered as we watched the family scene unfold. "Because I'm not exhausted from making it perfect for everyone else," I agreed. Later that evening, as the children finally settled into sleep and the adults enjoyed a quiet moment around the tree, my mother raised her glass in a toast. "To Margot," she said, her eyes meeting mine with understanding, "who taught us that loving someone means respecting their boundaries, not just accepting their sacrifices. Thank you for having the courage to show us a better way to be family." The journey hadn't been easy. There had been moments of regression, uncomfortable conversations, and the challenging work of establishing new expectations. But the result was worth every difficult moment. A family that functioned through mutual respect rather than convenient exploitation, and relationships that nourished rather than depleted. As I looked around at the faces of those I loved, I understood that sometimes the greatest act of love is standing up for your own worth. In doing so, you create the possibility for relationships built on mutual care rather than imbalanced obligation. The empty chair I had left the previous Christmas had made space for growth that benefited everyone. So, if you've ever found yourself giving and giving while receiving little in return, remember that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. Your time, your effort, and your presence are valuable gifts that deserve to be recognized and appreciated. And those who truly love you will rise to meet the standard you set. Have you ever had to establish boundaries with loved ones who were taking you for granted? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe for more stories about navigating complicated relationships with courage and self-respect. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is the courage to say enough. Music.